G'day folks and welcome to an Cyclone Chasers Cyclone video update today, the 2nd of February 2016. My name's Chris Nitzo. This update is sponsored by our major sponsor, Campbell Scientific Australia, when measurements matter. Folks, we've got a fairly complex synoptic pattern at the moment across northeastern Australia. What we're going to see here is this becoming the main dominant weather producing system, this little trough here. There is a monsoon trough in play. It is very, 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 very weak at the moment, and it is causing some showers and thunderstorms across the Northern Territory and the far northern Kimberley, and also creating showers and thunderstorms across the Solomon Islands. But it won't be the major factor in play at the moment across the Queensland area. Now, this update will really specifically focus on Queensland because this is where all the weather's going to be happening over the next couple of days, and in fact probably over the next 4 or 5 days. Alright, now one of those little lows is going to spin up pretty rapidly off the coast of the southeast corner of Queensland here, and it will pack a massive punch here to its north, but it should be located sufficiently far offshore to not impact the weather over much of coastal Queensland too dramatically. Now, that does not mean that it's not going to produce some rain. There's definitely going to be some rain, possibly some moderate to heavy falls along the coast, but overall it's a lot less than what it could have been had the low been positioned a little closer. Now that low will rapidly scoot away. Look at that, 24 hours later, gone, not even there anymore. And then it sort of comes back, and you can just see it here. It sort of comes back, but it doesn't come back far enough to once again impact the coast directly, and then finally it goes away. All right, that's not the main issue though. What we need to look at as Oz Cyclone Chasers, and for your own interest, is what happens. This low here develops, and what we see to the north of that low is we see these northerly winds, and what we see to the south of that low are these easterly or southerly winds. Now what we're going to see once the low moves away is these southerly winds pushing northwards and these northerly winds pushing southwards. So it doesn't take a brain surgeon nor a meteorologist to figure out that there's going to be some sort of issue when we've got southerly winds coming up and we've got northerly winds coming down. There's obviously going to be some issue here, and this issue is that along that line that will be drawn, that we've just drawn in there for you, is going to be a lot of weather. That's where we see these two air masses converging, or basically logging, bumping heads. And the only way that air masses bumping heads can go is up. And so that uplift is going to cause a lot of rainfall. Now, initially the bump isn't too bad, but what ends up happening is that these southerlies end up becoming stronger. These northerlies a little bit weaker, but strong enough to create an enhanced area of convergence right in through here. So this, we're looking here at 10 a.m. on Friday. So at 10 a.m. on Friday, we're looking at significant rainfall potential across central Queensland, possibly the southern parts of the central coast, and with Sundays. Now, as we move on to Saturday, we can see that the battle line has moved northwards. This little line where all these air masses are converging and colliding has moved into this region here. So this is the Whitsundays to Mackay area. Now underneath that we've got fairly strong southeasterlies. Above that we've got fairly weak northerlies. Now where they combine is where we're going to see maximum rainfall impacts. The interesting thing is that by Sunday morning, the actual little battle zone here has probably stalled somewhere around the Burdekin region of Queensland, or a little bit further south around the central coast, and with Sundays the northern area of that. Now, because it's stalled, we're going to see a continuation of moderate to heavy rainfall here for an extended period of time. And it's not until Monday where the southeasterlies finally take control and the northerlies have been washed away. Now, when that happens, the other area we start to watch is the northern Coral Sea, because there's also areas of convergence occurring out there in the northern Coral Sea. And the other area we need to watch is the southern Gulf of Carpentaria, because there's two other locations here where things could happen. And as we move on to Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, we certainly see that things are starting to happen in those other locations. Once again, the northerlies get reinforced, so that we get a strengthening northerly flow. The easterlies are entrenched here because there's ridging to the south here in the Tasman Sea. So once again, the battle lines are redrawn, and the battle lines are up here around the northern parts of Queensland into the Northern Territory, Central Gulf of Carpentaria, and extending out towards Solomon Islands and Vanuatu region. Once the battle lines are redrawn in the deep tropics, it doesn't take a genius to figure out what's going to happen next, and that's exactly what you might think has happened happens. So we have two low pressure systems here. Any one of these could intensify, and then we've also got a tropical cyclone located way out here further to the east. Now, look, these areas are not set in stone, and which of these lows develops, if any develop, is also not set in stone. So looking this far out with computer modeling is very difficult, especially when nothing has formed. So remember, there's going to be two different battle lines. So the first battle line occurs or starts occurring tomorrow, and you can see it here right across the Hervey Bay coastline. And it generally moves northwards and then stalls around the Burdekin region and then pushes a little bit further northwards and then completely dies here on Monday. And then what ends up happening is the battle line is redrawn much further north, and it happens up here around the northern peninsula. It's this secondary battle line that we're more interested in. But that does not mean for 1 second that something can't occur in this first battle line moving up the coast over the next few days. Because anything that does occur is going to be very close to the coast, it only takes a very weak low to really enhance the rainfall, particularly just south of it. So you can see here there's a low located just around Townsville, maybe somewhere between Townsville and Bowen, and that anywhere south of that we would see some very heavy rainfall possible. And you know, those little lows can spin up very quickly in this sort of situation where we've got this southeasterly coming in and battling it out with a northerly. It doesn't take much for those winds to come together, but not only come together but start to rotate, start to spin. So just to give you a look at another computer model, thanks to the Brisbane Storm Chasers here, we've got the battle line tomorrow located just here around the Hervey Bay, Gympie region. That's tomorrow night. As we move on to 10 p.m. on Thursday night, we can see that the battle line has moved a little bit further to the north now. It's located up here to the north of Rocky. You can see what I mean by the battle line. We've got these northerly winds coming into it. We've got these southerly winds coming into it. And right along there, that's what we call a shear line. That creates a temporary, if you like, barrier between the northerlies and the southerlies. Very similar to what you would, very similar to a monsoon trough. Now when we get to Friday night, you can see that the winds here have increased, particularly from the south, and in there we've got this little spin up over here. We've got a little spin up here to the south of Townsville, and so anywhere in this particular zone in here would be looking at some really, really heavy rainfall. We move on to Saturday, and as I mentioned to you, there's going to be that stall, the stall of those southerlies and the northerlies, and looks like the GFS model has the stall happening right near Mackay. So once again, we're looking at huge rainfalls in this zone here. Then by Sunday night, the battle line starts moving again. We've got a little bit of a spin up here, and then the battle line is just here to the north of Townsville. So anywhere just south of that is seeing heavy rainfall. But see, the most important part of this, folks, is where these little spin-ups are going to take place. So let's say if that spin-up is a little bit closer to the coast, well then the coast will receive some extreme rainfall. If that spin-up is a little bit further offshore, then it's going to pull a lot of the convergence or a lot of the enhanced convergence out there with it. So we're going to see less rainfall on the coast. And it's too difficult for computer models to tell us accurately where those little spin-ups are going to be. So it's one of those things where you're going to have to keep monitoring the satellite yourself and the radar yourself to try and figure this out. The only other option there is to probably look at computer models maybe 24 hours out, because they tend to be pretty good at picking up those things, say, with about 24 hours lead time. But after that, they can be quite useless. Alrighty, so let's take a brief look now at all of the rainfall across the northern half of the country. Not too concerned about what's happening to the south, because none of our subscribers nor most of our public members actually live there. So, folks, up here in the Northern Territory, we're going to continue to see that very weak monsoon trough creating some some scattered monsoonal showers in the region. We're also going to see the Gulf of Carpentaria continue to fire with thunderstorms and some enhanced thunderstorm activity here across northwestern Queensland, the far eastern parts of the Northern Territory. Mostly fine across WA in the wake of Cyclone Stan. We've seen fairly stable conditions here. However, there will be just enough instability and just enough moisture to create isolated showers and possibly some thunderstorms across the inland parts of the Pilbara, associated with a bit of a trough system that's through that region. The real area of rain over Queensland tomorrow is around about where that low, remember that low that forms just off the coast here, and then sort of juts away to the southeast. That's where we're going to see the enhanced area of rainfall. Is that low is going to be the start of that battle zone, and that's where we'll see that rainfall. So Hervey Bay region, Sunshine Coast region, extending into the Capricornia region, and then also showers and thunderstorms generally throughout most of Queensland. As we go to Thursday, the battle line moves a little bit further to the north, and you can see it here around the Capricornia region and starting to get into the southern Central Coast and Whitsundays region. Also scattered showers and thunderstorms also moving northwards as well and increasing across the Herbert and Lower Burdekin, the northern Goldfields and Upper Flinders regions. The Gulf country continues to fire with showers and thunderstorms, and so too does the Northern Territory. That isolated activity over the Pilbara weakens out on Thursday. On Friday, the battle line is drawn a little bit stronger here, and we see right in that Mackay to St. Lawrence region is where we're expecting to see the heaviest rainfall from it, but we also see scattered showers extending further to the north towards the Cardwell area, and continuing further to the northwest are scattered showers and thunderstorms. We have general showers and thunderstorms also through most of the Herbert, Lower Burdekin, Central Coast Whitsundays, Central Highlands and Coalfields as well. Across the Northern Territory, a bit of a dry southerly pushing into most of the territory, except for the top end region. The top end region will still come under the influence of the very, very weak monsoon trough. We also see a little bit of an increase in instability across the Kimberley region of WA. Because that battle line stalls on Saturday, we continue to see this very heavy rainfall here on the Central Coast and Whitsundays region, and also extending now to the to the Herbert and Lower Burdekin region, and also the North Tropical Coast and Tablelands. And we can also see an extension west of a lot of that moisture. So a lot of places in the northern inland and central inland parts of Queensland won't be missing out on the good stuff out of this system. Across the Northern Territory, we see an increase in stability as we see southerly winds pushing northwards, and we see a lot of dry air pushing all the way up except for the coastal regions of the top end. Also, the Kimberley starting to get affected by some of that dry southerly air as well, so we're starting to see only showers and thunderstorms near the coastal regions of the Kimberley. So if we're to zoom out for 10 days and have a look at the accumulation of rainfall over 10 days, there's no surprises where the hotspot's going to be, is it? It's going to be in this Bowen to St. Lawrence region, and we're looking at falls of upwards of 300 millimetres possible over the next 10 days in that area. And also then the North Tropical Coast region, it sort of does a bit of a dipsy-do and misses the Townsville area, as has been most of the case. But in saying that, the really heavy stuff misses the Townsville area. It doesn't mean that Townsville itself isn't going to pick up 150 odd millimetres, which is still a great dumping of rainfall. Picking up anything over 100 is fantastic over the next 10 days. And so we're still expecting to see that over the Herbert and Lower Burdekin region. But the heavier stuff certainly looks like being in the Mackay Whitsundays coastline region. But it's really good to see just widespread rainfall here that's over 50 millimetres. So anything in the purple's over about 50 mils. I'll just move this a little bit across so you can actually see what I'm talking about in terms of rainfall amounts. But anything in the purple here is fantastic rain, and you can see in most of the northeast, in fact the northeastern half of the state is all going to receive 50 millimetres plus. It's just a matter of who gets the flooding type rainfalls, and at the moment the computer models in general, I know this is from the GFS, but in general they're all in reasonable agreement that this Central Coast and Whitsundays region is where the fun's going to really be at. I know I briefly mentioned a tropical cyclone in the Vanuatu area or the Solomon Islands area. I don't want to talk about that tonight. I think we've got enough to look forward to over the next 4 days, particularly around Queensland, that we don't need to be speculating on tropical cyclones that could or could not form in 8 to 12 days time, and then especially speculating on where those things can go. I don't think that's a responsible thing to do, considering we have a lot of weather to be aware of and be prepared for over the next 4 to 6 days. Thanks for watching this update. If you'd like to subscribe, You can do so by heading to our website, ozcyclonechasers.com.au, and there'll be a subscribe link here. Hit the subscribe link and you can become a subscriber, gain access to a whole bunch of other videos, and our newly developed weather center, or developing weather center. We're developing it every day into what will become an awesome feature. Thanks for watching this update. I'll talk to you again Thursday night, and then from then on, we're doing Thursday night updates for the public rather than Tuesday night. I'll talk to you then.